Welcome to the Ultimate Islamic Knowledge Challenge. Do you think you're an expert? We're about to find out. Today, we are asking 20 essential questions, and I brought in the respected Dr. Mostafavi to answer every single one. But there is a crazy twist. He is going to get between 2 and 4 answers wrong on purpose. Your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to catch the mistakes. The first people to comment with all the mistakes and the correct answers will be entered into a massive prize drawing. We'll announce the winner in a video at the end of this week. Do you have what it takes? The challenge starts now. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Mostafavi. It is an honor to have you here. We're going to help our audience master the core ideas of Islam with some simple questions. Are you ready for this?
Wa alaikum assalam. The pleasure is all mine. Knowledge should always be tested and shared. I'm ready. Let's begin.
Let's go. We're starting with the absolute foundation of everything. Question 1. Name the 5 pillars of Islam. So many of us learned this as kids. Can you list them out for us?
Of course, the 5 pillars of Islam, the foundational acts of worship that define a Muslim, are the Shahada, which is the declaration of faith, Salah, the 5 daily prayers, Zakat, the obligatory charity, Saum, fasting during the month of Ramadan, and Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca for those who are able.
Okay, now let's talk about the source of all knowledge. Question 2. How many surahs, chapters, are in the Quran? A simple fact about the structure of Allah's book. What's the number?
The Holy Quran is made up of 113 surahs. They vary greatly in length, from the longest, Surah Al-Baqarah, to the shortest, Surah Al-Kawthar. Each one is a distinct unit of revelation, and together they form the complete message of Islam.
Next up, a question about getting ready for prayer. Question 3. What is the first step before performing wudu? This is the most critical starting point. Before you even touch the water, what must happen?
The first and most essential step is making the intention or the niyyah in your heart. This isn't something you have to say out loud, but it's a firm decision inside yourself that you're performing this ablution to get pure for prayer or another act of worship. Without the right intention, the physical actions are just that. Physical actions with no spiritual reward.
Now for a topic that literally everyone talks about. Question 4. Is music halal or haram? Please provide a brief reason for the differing views. This might be one of the most asked questions ever, and people have strong opinions. What's the real Islamic perspective here?
This is definitely a matter of scholarly debate, and it's important to know that. The majority of classical scholars held the view that instrumental music is generally forbidden or haram. They based this on interpretations of verses in the Quran and specific hadiths that warn against idle talk and musical instruments. The main concern is that music can be a powerful distraction from remembering God and can lead to sinful behavior. However, there has always been a minority opinion, which is more common now, that separates different types of music. These scholars argue that music itself is neutral. Its ruling depends on the content and its effect. If the lyrics are positive and the music doesn't lead you toward anything forbidden, it may be permissible. The issue is complex, and a Muslim should try to follow the opinion that brings their heart closer to God.
Incredible answer. Okay, let's rewind time to the golden age of Islamic history. Question 5. Name the 4 rightly guided caliphs in chronological order. After the Prophet, peace be upon him, passed away, 4 of his closest companions led the entire community. Who were they, in the correct order?
The 4 rightly guided caliphs, known in Arabic as the Khulafa al-Rashidun, are Abu Bakr al-Siddiq, followed by Umar ibn al-Khattab, then Uthman ibn Affan, and finally Ali ibn Abi Talib. May Allah be pleased with all of them. They are honored for their justice, piety, and for sticking to the Prophet's way.
Now a question from the very beginning of Islam. Question 6. Who was the first person to accept Islam? Who was the absolute first person to believe in the message of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him?
The first person to embrace Islam was Abu Bakr al-Siddiq. He was the Prophet's closest friend, and as soon as the Prophet, peace be upon him, presented the message to him, he accepted it without any hesitation.
Time for a super straightforward question about our daily prayers. Question 7. How many obligatory rak'ahs are there in the Zuhr prayer?
The obligatory or fard prayer for Zuhr consists of 4 rak'ahs. These are often preceded by 4 rak'ahs of confirmed sunnah and followed by 2 rak'ahs of confirmed sunnah. But the core obligation is those 4 units.
Okay, let's switch from history to what we're allowed to eat and drink. Question 8. What are some of the major categories of food and drink that are considered haram, forbidden, for Muslims? Halal and haram are at the center of a Muslim's entire life. What are the main things we absolutely cannot consume?
The Quran and Sunnah have clearly laid out what is forbidden to consume. The most well-known is pork and all its byproducts. Also explicitly forbidden are blood, the meat of an animal that has died on its own, and meat that wasn't slaughtered in the name of Allah. On top of that, all intoxicants, with alcohol being the primary example, are strictly haram.
Back to wudu, and the details here are everything. Question 9. In wudu, after washing the hands, what do you do next? Rinse the mouth or rinse the nose first? This is a tiny detail that could change everything. What is the correct order from the Sunnah?
After washing the hands to the wrists 3 times, the Sunnah is to first rinse the mouth 3 times. After this, you then draw water into your nostrils and blow it out also 3 times. This sequence is well established from the practice of the Prophet.
Next up in ablution. Question 10. How many times do you wash your face in wudu? You've made your intention, you've washed your hands, mouth, and nose. Now the face. What's the number?
The face should be washed 3 times. It's important to be thorough, making sure the water reaches the entire surface of the face, from the hairline down to the chin and from ear to ear. This is a fard, an obligatory part of wudu.
All right, we are 10 questions down, halfway through the challenge. How are you doing? More importantly, have you spotted a mistake yet? Remember, between 2 and 4 of these answers are completely wrong. The mistakes are subtle. You have to be paying extreme attention. If you think you found one, don't lose it. And while you're thinking, if you love this challenge, destroy that like button and subscribe right now. It literally helps us make insane videos like this for you. Now, let's get back to the quiz. There are still 10 questions left. The challenge continues. Dr. Mostafavi, let's start the second half with a question about the final revelation itself. Question 11. Who was the angel responsible for revealing the Quran to the Prophet Muhammad? Peace be upon him. The Quran is the word of Allah, but it was delivered by a specific messenger. Who was it?
The divine revelations of the Quran were brought down from Allah to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, by the Archangel Jibril, known as Gabriel in English. Over 23 years, Angel Jibril would appear to the Prophet delivering the verses and surahs that would eventually become the complete Quran we have today.
Let's get deeper into some prayer terminology with this next one. Question 12. What does the term wajib mean in the context of prayer, and can you give an example? We all hear fard and sunnah, but what on earth does wajib mean?
Wajib is a very important category. It refers to an act that is considered compulsory, and leaving it out on purpose is sinful. In prayer, if a wajib act is forgotten, it can often be fixed by performing the sajdat al-saw, prostration of forgetfulness. An example of a wajib act in the Hanafi school is reciting Surah Al-Fatiha in every rak'ah.
Thank you. Now for another term we hear every single day at the mosque. Question 13. What does iqama mean? We hear the adhan call to prayer, but then right before the prayer starts, there's another call. What is that?
The Iqamah is the second call to prayer, said just before the congregational prayer is about to begin. It signals to the people already in the mosque that the Imam is ready and the prayer is starting. Its wording is very similar to the Adhan, but it's recited more quickly and adds the phrase Qad qamat is-salah, which means the prayer has begun.
Okay, a question about the personal habits of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Question 14. Did the Prophet, peace be upon him, perform wudu before every single prayer, even if he was already in a state of wudu from a previous prayer? This is about doing what's required versus going above and beyond. What did the Prophet himself do?
No, this was not his consistent practice. The requirement is to have valid wudu for prayer. If his wudu from a previous prayer was not broken, he would not need to perform a new one. The ruling is that one wudu can be used for multiple prayers as long as it remains valid. He only performed wudu when his previous one was broken.
Now let's talk about a powerful act of worship outside of Ramadan. Question 15. Is fasting on the day of Ashura a recommended practice? Ashura, the 10th of Muharram, is a huge day in the Islamic calendar. Should we be fasting?
Yes, fasting on the day of Ashura is a highly recommended sunnah. The Prophet, peace be upon him, encouraged his companions to do so. To make the Muslim practice different from the Jewish community who also fasted that day, he stated his intention to also fast on the 9th of Muharram. So it's recommended to fast on the 10th and also either the 9th or 11th along with it.
Okay, time for a super practical prayer scenario. Question 16. Can you pray with a small amount of blood on your sock if you've performed masa, wiping over it during wudu? Picture this. A tiny dry spot of blood is on your sock. You do wudu, wipe over your socks. Is your prayer valid?
That's a good practical question. Yes, the prayer is perfectly valid. The act of masa is a purification for the feet and whatever is covering them. Therefore, once you wipe over the socks, any minor impurity that was on them, like a small spot of dried blood, is effectively purified along with it, and your prayer is sound.
Let's zoom out from the small details to another part of the body. Question 17. What is the minimum part to wipe on the head during wudu? We see people do this differently all the time. What is the absolute minimum you have to do for this part of wudu?
According to the Hanafi school of thought, the minimum obligatory amount is to wipe a quarter of the head with wet hands. However, the complete sunnah, as practiced by the Prophet, peace be upon him, is to wipe the entire head. While a quarter is the minimum, doing the full wipe is definitely better.
Thank you. Now for an extremely practical list. Question 18. What invalidates wudu immediately? You've just perfected your wudu. What are the common things that would force you to do it all over again?
Several things break wudu. The most common are natural bodily discharges like passing wind, urinating, or defecating. Another is falling into a deep sleep where you lose awareness of your surroundings. A light doze where you're still aware doesn't necessarily break it. Also, directly touching the private parts with the hand without a barrier, like cloth, breaks wudu.
Down to the second to last question. We are going back to the start of wudu. Question 19. Is saying Bismillah at the beginning of wudu obligatory, fard, or recommended, sunnah? Is this a must-do, or is it just a recommended practice? This is critical.
Saying Bismillah is obligatory or fard. According to the strongest evidence, a wudu performed without intentionally saying Bismillah at the start is not considered valid. It's a foundational part of the ritual.
And now, the final question of this insane challenge. This one is about basic prophetic manners. Question 20. Which hand did the Prophet, peace be upon him, teach us to use for eating and drinking? This is how you turn a simple act like eating into an act of worship. What's the secret?
The Prophet, peace be upon him, explicitly taught us to use our right hand for eating and drinking. He told a man who was eating with his left hand to eat with your right hand. This is a core part of Islamic etiquette that turns the simple act of eating into an act of worship and following the Sunnah.
Dr. Mostafavi, from myself and the millions watching, thank you for your time and for this incredible challenge. And that's it. 20 questions, 20 answers. But like we said at the start, this wasn't about listening, it was about detecting. We told you there were between 2 and 4 deliberate mistakes in those answers. Did you find them? Did you listen to every single detail about wudu? Did a historical fact seem wrong to you? Did one of those rulings just feel a little off? This is your moment. Your final mission is to go to the comments section right now. To win this challenge and get entered into the prize drawing, you have to do 2 things. 1. List the question numbers you think were wrong. 2. For each number, you must give the correct answer. This is your chance to prove your knowledge and help everyone learn something new. We are reading every comment, and in a follow-up video, we will reveal the mistakes and the real answers. We'll also give a shout-out to the smartest people in the comments and announce our prize winner. Thank you for surviving this challenge. May Allah increase us all in beneficial knowledge. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you do not miss the reveal video. See you next time. Assalamu alaikum.